What's up, my pilots? Angry Poncho here, and we're playing Minecraft. Yeah. Well, remember all those years ago, actually it was probably just some months ago, I said I would make a series about Redstone. I'm in need of an LP, and this seems like a good project to take up now. It's good trying to get some people back into Minecraft again, like you ever weren't. So yes, this is the first episode of my Redstone series. Not sure how long it's going to be or how complicated we're going to get, but this first episode is very basic. Honestly, if you already know about Redstone, you can probably skip this episode entirely. It's not going to be anything new. I'm going to start with the absolute most basic stuff of what is Redstone. So I guess if you're... Okay, first off, this is too many items here. It's a mod you definitely should install. You get redstone from harvesting it out of redstone ore, which in my texture pack looks like this. Very helpful to people not using the texture pack, right? And in order to get redstone ore, you have to mine it with an iron pickaxe or better. So that means iron or diamond, I believe, would be your only two options there. Actually, let me go ahead and yeah, we'll play in this texture pack, even though it needs to be patched. You can see my pickaxe looks all funny. It's got some jagged lines on it. It doesn't really matter for anything besides pickaxes, though, so we'll just toss that. Alright, so once you've collected your redstone, you've got your dust, there's all sorts of different things that you can make with it. I'm not going to go through any crafting recipes right now. Those are all available online, and they're pretty straightforward. So whenever I mention the name of something, you know, they all appear in the tooltips, and I assume most of you already know what most of this stuff is called anyway, so there's no real issues there. But there are a lot. There's a lot to learn. Just a lot to say in this first video. I guess the first thing I want to say is redstone transmits what you could call Minecraft's equivalent of electricity. So you can use this electricity to do a number of things. In fact, I got a whole demonstration area here to show you everything I could think of that redstone can be used to do or interact with. The first thing you have to know is that it doesn't last forever. Once you lay down redstone, it'll stay wherever you put it, but anytime you have a power source and power flowing through a redstone line, it's only going to travel a maximum of 15 blocks. So that's, if you watch the signs as I go down here, this would be the first block right next to whatever it is that's powering it. This is a redstone torch here. This is your redstone dust that you see in your hand. That's what it looks like when you put it on the ground. Just right click to place, left click to pick it up like anything else. So you got 1, 2, 3. We'll just do up to 15. And you can see there's sort of a color transition where it's brightest near its power source and dimmest away. And if you look down here where it's not powered, it's actually the darkest it ever looks on the ground. And another thing you can notice is powered redstone has these particles on it, sort of to indicate that there's some activity there. You can see it all along the powered line. But as soon as it's not powered anymore, those particles don't appear. I usually look for the particles because trying to differentiate between that color of red and that color of red is a little bit hit or miss, at least for me. So I look for the smoke particles. If you don't see any, there's no power going through it. Of course, if it's this bright, you probably can just look at it and tell. So that's how long it goes, 15 blocks. And so what can you do with it in that first 15 blocks? Pretty much anything. There's a whole lot of stuff that redstone interacts with, and the primary source you're probably going to have for redstone power are redstone torches. So I got a whole section over here that goes into the details of torches, so we'll get to that. First, I just want to show you what you can do with redstone. It's like this is sort of a motivation for all the research and the things that you... Like, why would you want to put time in to learn how to use it? Okay, here's why. Here's all the things you can do. So if you've got a redstone torch, you can power in multiple directions at once, like this, to go to multiple different objects. You can also, redstone torches, power blocks above them. So you can see it's redstone torch here is powering the 4 blocks directly around it. It does not go diagonally. Nothing in Minecraft really does. So the 4 blocks around it here on the floor, or the ground, and the 1 block directly above it. And so the redstone dust on top of that block is powered. Now, as a side effect, this block being powered transmits power sideways, so it's going to send it out the side of this block to the redstone dust that's sitting here. Now, it's a little bit confusing, it's sort of hard to follow, but This redstone torch does not power this block, and you can see because if this block, this grass block here were powered, this piece of dust would turn on, and it's not. And this piece of dust is on, which means it has to get power from somewhere else, which is over here. So that's how the torches can power things. The next most common thing is probably the lever. This is what levers look like in my texture pack. Their default is to off. You right-click, turn them on. And so they power in this pretty much the same way that torches do in terms of proximity. And a lot of blocks work like this, actually. All the power sources, pretty much, will send it in the 4 directions horizontally. So this lever is powering this block. And this block is sending power to the side here, to the side there, out the back, also to the top of the block. And here's the cool part. If you look here, this redstone dust is receiving power through the bottom of the block, even though there's some air in between there. There's technically no blocks in between, because this, if you look at the little outline, this should be HD enough that you can see the little outline around the redstone dust, the little tiny, I guess you'd call it it's like a cube, but it's not actually a cube, it's just a little box. That outline only takes up the very bottom portion of the block, the cube, the unit, I guess you could call it, that redstone dust is in. But as far as the game is concerned, that block is full. That redstone dust fills up all the space between the ground and the bottom of this block, even though it only takes up this much space when we look at it. So that's why this block being powered and having the redstone dust underneath it, the game connects the two, because it considers this redstone dust to be filling up this space down here. So the power from this lever can go out the sides, out the top, or down to the dust directly beneath. Buttons are the same way, except when you push them, they don't stay on forever, but they power in the same directions, just like before. Now, if you're wondering what the rest of these blocks are doing up here, we'll get to that in just a second. So all will become clear in time. So we got 2 kinds of pressure plates as well. This is another power source. When you step on them, it sends power out all the sides. These don't send power up, unfortunately. They don't work like that, partially because there's no way to stand on them when there's a block above it. And it also sends power down to this redstone dust down here. If you look, you can see it turns on just for a while. These pressure plates stay lit the same amount of time that one of those buttons does once you step off of it. And the wooden ones behave the same way, except for one difference between the two. And as far as I can tell, this is the only difference between the two. Is when you toss an item using the Q key onto a pressure plate that's made of stone, it won't work. But you can push it, mobs can push it. If there were a cow wandering around here, he could step on this and turn it on, so be aware of that. But the wooden ones do activate when they come into contact with an entity. That's what they're called in Minecraft, is these movable objects. And you'll find even that some things are entities that you wouldn't have considered, like fired arrows can actually activate these, as well as items that have dropped on it, mobs. I think particles even can interact with these if you are I think there's an exploit for that, but it's not really intended that way. So I said that redstone dust could only go 15 blocks. Well, this is obviously more than 15 blocks here, but this is what we call a redstone repeater. This is what we use to make the signals longer. So it's not really a power. It's sort of a, I guess in terms of redstone items, just to get the nomenclature here, we've got sources and targets. Sources are where the power comes from, and targets are where the power goes, things it interacts with. Some things are both sources and targets, like redstone repeaters could be considered as such. Although they don't generate power themselves, they do pass power on, and so they are sort of a pseudo-source in that regard. So when you turn on the power here, you'd run down here, and I believe this is 14 blocks, so it's about to run out. If we put a repeater down next to it, it reinvigorates the signal. And so here, it's like it's brand new, which allows us to travel all the distance back to here and still have power. And the redstone repeaters have the added ability to introduce a delay into the signal that they propagate. Propagate just means they pass it on. So when the signal propagates from here through the repeater to there, the distance between these two torches on the repeater is proportional to how long it takes for the signal to go through. So if you watch, I'm going to turn this off. When I turn it on, notice how long it takes for this line to turn on. Pretty quick, right? I'll do it one more time so you can see. It's almost immediate. But if I lengthen the delay here to, I guess you call it 4 ticks, or it's not really 4 ticks, but it's set to 4. Now watch how long it takes. Quite a bit longer. It also takes the same amount of delay to turn off. So be aware of that when you're working with repeaters. Okay, so that's all that stuff. So the reason that those blocks are sitting on the tops of these here is to keep things from interfering. Basically, power will sometimes will slide down the sides of blocks here. Let me show you, or let me extend this example actually just to make this clear. I don't want that there. I want redstone there. So if you send a signal across the top of a block, and there's redstone dust on the ground next to it, the two will connect, and you'll get this graphic of it going down the side of the block. Even though that doesn't actually interact with anything, you can still hit the dirt here. There's no redstone in the way, whereas here, you'll pop the redstone off if you click. So redstone typically will drop down 1 layer. It'll also go up 1 layer. So if I put a block here, you see it'll climb up the side of the block to go up here. But it won't go through the solid block here. This dirt block, it won't go down the edge down here because this dirt block is sort of cutting the signal off right at this corner. It can't make it through that gap there. There really isn't a gap to go through. If I take it away, it goes back down without any trouble. I'm not sure how to best demonstrate that here. I guess I'll put that there and leave that there as an example. I'm going to upload this world every so often so you guys can experiment with it yourselves. But I said that, you know, it might have heard me say it. I said the dirt block is solid, so it won't allow the signal to go through like this. Some blocks aren't. Any half slab will allow the signal to go from the top down the side. It can cut through the corner here just fine. Any transparent block, like this glass block, it'll drop down through there. And some blocks, I'm not really sure why it happens, but it does. This is glowstone. It'll let the signal go down from this space to this space through the corner the glowstone is touching. I'm not sure if this is intentional, because when you look at it, the graphic doesn't change. For the glass and the half stone, the half steps, you get this little piece of redstone that shows where the power is going, but for the glowstone, you don't get that. So this might be changed in the future versions. I'm not sure if it's a bug or intentional, but for now it works. Another thing to note is that a lot of these I guess you'd call them transparent blocks or semi-transparent blocks, you cannot put redstone dust on top of them. So this half slab, I can't put red dust on it. Some glass, I can't put red dust on it. I don't know how to demonstrate that, so I'll just tell you in the video here. Another thing redstone interacts with is doors. Now most doors that you probably use are made of wood here. You can just right click to open and close them. But if you're feeling, I don't know, like you want a remote control door, you can use redstone to power it. And with iron doors, you can't open those with your hand, so you have to use redstone power to open them. You can actually power the door itself, the block it's sitting on top of, or the block adjacent to it, and it'll open the door. So that's actually one of the uses where you have to get redstone involved, is if you want to use iron doors. The easiest way to get an iron door to open is just to put a pressure plate behind it, so that it opens for you when you walk up to it. Where the pressure plate would be a source, and the door would be a target in that example. So here you've got, this is a new item actually, so I'm not too versed in its use. I've never actually put it in a map yet, but I understand in theory how it works. It's called Tripwire. It consists of 2 parts. You have the wire itself, which is these 3 blocks, and then you have, I don't know what they're called, hooks? Yes, Tripwire hooks, which look like this in the inventory here. Hang on to the sides of things like this. And whenever someone steps, an entity, I don't know if it's just, yeah, items will do it too. So any entity that lands on these 3 squares here will activate the tripwire. You can see the end here will dip down to indicate that it's happened. It's hard to see from this angle, but hopefully you can observe that there. And so once you got this tripwire activated, it powers a block just like having a lever on the side does. It sends it out the sides, up to the top, and actually out the back, although I can't move fast enough to show you. And I didn't test this actually, but I would guess that it powers underneath too. Want to see? No, it doesn't. Look at there. Alright. Well, there's one difference. So if you watch, there's a block here that the... oh, that's because it's 1 block too low, isn't it? Hang on a second. Let me edit this. Just one second here. Let's see. Oh yeah, it does turn it on. Okay, here, just to demonstrate. Yeah, so it is sending power out the bottom, just like a lever, a block with a lever on it would. So there's your demonstration for that. All right, so we did the doors. Yes. So minecarts, they've been in the game forever, but no one seems to use them. They interact with redstone as well. You have what's called here I guess a detector rail. That's what it's called, right? A detector rail. Whenever a minecart goes across it, it turns on and it sends power out. So this is a source. So it'll send power out to the side here, off the side of the track, and it also powers the square directly beneath it, like most blocks you can see do. Well, this one's harder to notice, because usually you're not digging around underneath your rails. There you go. There's another kind of rail that these minecarts interact with, and that's this one here. This is a powered rail. This is made with gold instead of iron in the crafting recipe. That's what makes it different there. This is a target, not a source. So when you send power to it, you can actually do it with a lever right next to it. You don't even have to have redstone in between if they're adjacent like this. And it will give power to the minecart when it goes over it, which will increase its momentum, and basically this minecart, which isn't going downhill or anything, it just keeps going in circles because this powered rail sends power to it. And through a quirk of minecarts, it'll actually go faster if you're sitting in it. So yeah, you want to get dizzy, do that for a while. Ugh. Gotta stop it. And when it's turned off, it acts as a brake. So if I push this cart around here, when it comes around, it gets stuck on the powered rail. The powered rail acts like it's covered in glue or something. It gets stuck on it. Okay, so there's rails. Over here we have trapdoors. I've not yet found a functional use for these, since you can't put them on the top edges of blocks. They only go to the bottom edges. But basically you stick it on the side of a block, and when you apply power to the block that it's stuck to, they open. So you can have people fall into pits or whatever else in theory. And here, there we go. I'll flip this to... Oh, I'm stuck in the doors. Ow. Ow. Arr. Let me out. Oh, why did I do this? Hoopa! There we go. And you can jump out of that if you do it just right. So, yeah, you have things to fall through there. Items that are sitting on top will, there we go, will fall through. And then there's pistons. These guys are fun. You can do a lot with pistons. Send power to them, you'll have them extend. Turn the power off, and they'll retract. Works the same way sticky pistons as for regular pistons. And you can even send power to pistons indirectly. You don't have to have the wire running into the piston. You can just have it on a block next to the piston, like this. And I believe there's also a way to have the power run under the piston and have it activate, but I'm not exactly sure about that. Let me try it, actually. Won't be that hard to work out if it works or not. Let's just put a piston here. See if it turns itself on. Nope. Okay, so it looks like... Dang it. Well, there we go. Standing in the block. Yeah, so putting the line underneath the piston will not turn it on, but having it run along the side here, even if it doesn't look like the signal is going across, it will. Alright. Here we have a redstone lamp. This is like a... I guess, what do you make this with? I can't even remember. Glowstone and redstone, I believe, to craft this. It turns on when it gets power and turns off when it doesn't. So if it were a little bit darker, there you go. So that's handy enough, I suppose. This is my preferred light source for most of my buildings now, actually. It's not too hard to get your hands on once you've gone to the nether and gotten your glowstone. This is a dispenser. Whenever it gets power, it shoots whatever it's holding. So this dispenser has got some eggs in it. Whenever it receives power, it fires one time. Its counterpart over here, note blocks, work pretty much the same way, where when it receives power, it plays a note one time, and when it turns off, it doesn't do anything. So there's that. Now you see, if you turn the dispenser on and off too quickly, it won't activate. It has to be at least a 2-tick pulse for it to fire, and I guess I'll explain that later. Although there is a way to overclock it, I guess you could say, by giving it constant power from one signal and alternating power from another. So I showed earlier how sometimes when blocks are powered, they'll send signals out the sides. That's not usually the case. If you send redstone power into the side of a block like this, it's not going to pop out the other side of a block. You have to use a repeater to do this. But if you're sending power into a block via some other source, like I guess I could make a little example of this. If the lever were instead on the side of the block, you see it'll send power out both ends. So redstone dust, when it powers this block, it's considered weakly powered, and it will turn off a torch that's on top, but it won't send power out the other side. So only strongly powered blocks will do that. Strongly powered blocks are powered by sources, like levers. But there is a neat little trick. I'm not sure if this is a bug or intentional, but it's worked for several versions in a row now. If you put a repeater on the side of the block, this is why I said repeaters are like sources, as well as targets, because it takes the power in here, and then it strongly powers this block, so that any redstone dust you put on the side of this block will transmit the power out, whereas if you had just a wire running into it, like here, it won't go through. So the repeater gives you that added functionality as well. Just like the doors back there, fence gates do this exact same behavior. Here's another use for the minecarts. When you have a rail that's turned this way because of the way minecart rails work, which I'm not exactly sure about, I think they like to go south and west if they have a choice. I don't know which direction this is, but the cart apparently wants to turn this way. If you send power to the block that rail is on, keep your eye on the rail on the right, it'll switch. So rather than, I guess that's south or something there, I don't know. But rather than turning across this way, it changes to turn this way. See that? So you can use this to make switches in your rail yards. Pretty neat. And last but not least, the only other thing I could think of that redstone dust interacts with is Dynamite TNT. So when you send power into TNT, it activates it just like a flint and steel would. I love the sound that makes. Gets you a nice crater too. Turn that off just for safety's sake. Don't want anybody electrocuting themselves. That's something I haven't mentioned yet, but is also the case, that redstone dust never can harm the player. Although it's sort of compared to electricity, it doesn't interact like electricity does. It doesn't ever arc through the air, and it doesn't ever harm the player. Alright, so here's some more notes on torches. These are just sort of technical issues that you have to note in order to use torches really effectively. So there's all the things that you can do with it, and torches are your main primary, or kind of your primary power source. So what's happening here is you got powered torches, which is their default state. They like to be turned on. So when you apply power to the block that they're on, it turns them off. So they sort of toggle themselves that way. Toggle themselves. So you can see when the signal here going in is on, the torches turn off. When the signal's off, the torches return to their powered state. Torches will send power like this. Even when they're on the side of a block, it'll still send to the adjacent blocks. Now it won't send to the top of the block that it's attached to. This is because this is actually used to send power into the torch rather than out of it. We'll have an example of that in a little bit. I think it's actually, yeah, right over here. So here we have a powered torch with wire running on top. If we send power through this wire, it'll turn off the torch in the same way that this example did. So but when it's off, the power does not run the other direction. So that's handy, so it allows you to control torches. So if you had wire running across here up to the top of this block, you could use it to alternate the signal, or rather to invert the signal down along like this. So if this were off up here, it would be on down there, and vice versa. Torches also propagate their signal vertically. So a torch here will power the block directly above it. So you can see right now, this torch is powering this block, which turns off this torch, which makes this block unpowered, which lets that torch turn on. One more time. This signal's off, which means this block is unpowered, which allows this torch to remain on, which powers this block, which turns off that torch, which allows this block to be, which makes this block unpowered by default, which allows this torch to stay on by default. And so here we have a note block. Whenever you have a signal next to a note block, it'll send out a note. So here, I switch it up. Now that the power's on here, it goes off on the other end. And here, turn it back on, you'll hear the note go. So this signal alternates as you go up this pillar of torches and blocks. Just alternate your block, torch, as you go, and the signals will alternate as well. You'll have on, off, etc. Alright, so that's an example of torches powering torches. Here's the ubiquitous example. This is actually an RS NOR latch. We're going to learn more about these in the future. But right now you just need to notice that torches can turn each other on and off. So if you have the power coming in here, you'll come around to this torch and turn it off, which will make the rest of this line unpowered. Remember that the power does not flow from the side torch to the top of the block, so it doesn't go this direction. It only goes clockwise for this example. But if you apply power to this side, you'll switch the circuit up. Applying the power here generates power through this line, which turns off this torch, allowing that torch to revert to its powered state. And then when the button turns itself off, this torch continues to power the line on this side, which continues to suppress this torch. You say a torch is suppressed when it's being forced into an off state by a power signal coming into it. Okay, and then here again, a torch on the side of a block will power out the sides of the square it's in, and it'll also power up, just like torches that are sitting vertically. Okay, so that's a lot of technical mumbo-jumbo out of the way. Hopefully we won't have to go into... Oh, there's one more thing I should say, actually, about this. Pay attention to these torches when I toggle this switch very quickly. So you can see if you have a very rapidly alternating signal, like I was just doing with that lever, you'll hear that sound. That's the torches doing what we call they're burning out. They don't work for a little while after they burn out. So you'll notice that even though the signal keeps flipping, they stay off. And there's actually a bug where if they burn out and you let me try and do it. There we go. Yeah, they won't. No, I had it the other way. There we go. Okay, so this is the bug. So the torches have burned out. There's no power going in here, and yet the torches don't turn themselves back on. This is because Minecraft hasn't updated them recently. It's not paying attention to them anymore because it thought they were burned out. So when this signal turned off very quickly after they burnt out, and there you go. Then they turn back on the next time Minecraft gets around to checking on them. It can take a little while for these torches to come back on when they burn out. You saw it was just about 5 or 10 seconds just then. But if they burn out while you're alternating the signal, powering them and unpowering them again will typically wake them back up. But sometimes if you do it too often, you'll just burn them out. Now that only happens when the signal rapidly alternates. If it was slow, like that, you'd never have the torches burning out. It's only when it goes particularly fast. I think it has to be like 1 tick, about as fast as Minecraft will go in order to burn out your torches. But there are a lot of redstone devices that can accidentally alternate that quickly if they're not working properly. So torches will burn out sometimes. All right, cool. So that's what we did in this episode. We've got, first off, what is redstone? Where can I find it? Oh yeah, I guess I should have said it at the beginning, but redstone only appears, of course, down in the earth. I think it appears at, I want to say 32 blocks or lower. I know it used to be that. I'm not sure if it still is. But it's down there with gold and iron, I believe. So, yeah, we've got our transmission length of 15 blocks. We got all our different sources and targets. If I forgot one, let me know, and I'll add it to this area here before the map goes up. And then we've got torch behavior here. So that is it. In the next episode, we're going to do basic logic gates, which allows us to combine multiple redstone signals and produce a single or even multiple outputs. This allows us to have, say, several buttons that turn on the same lantern, or really the possibilities are endless of what you can build. Any combination of all the different sources and targets out there, they can all interact with each other. It's all compatible, and it's pretty freaking cool. So I guess that's about it for this episode. Let me know if you have any suggestions for this series, things that you'd like me to show off, or any particular redstone tricks you'd like to know how to build. The first couple videos, I'm going to do some basic stuff. You saw how this one went. In the next couple videos, we're going to do some basic gates and things. And then we're going to go through some more advanced stuff while alternating the advanced stuff with specific builds. Like I want to show you guys how to build a 3x3 piston door. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.